Okay, we may be live early again. For those who might be watching, I'm looking for the bloody countdown so that I can say, okay, let's kick this off in 60 seconds. But we're live already, so let's just crack on. Oh, shit. Where's my paperwork? Can I pause this? I don't know. Control O kills it. Just had it a second ago. Let's print out my paperwork again. Oh, there it is. There it is. Okay. Okay, so we are live, and I'm still early. Good, still early. This should be one of those get ready with me in the morning things, because now we're live. It is 12 o'clock. We are inside the file on LinkedIn. My name is Graham Doessel. I'm the founder and CEO of Legal Practice Holdings Group, MyCRA Lawyers, Armstrong, Doessel, Stevenson Lawyers, and a bunch of others. Why do I say that? Not to impress you, but to impress upon you that I have had a little bit of experience in some of this stuff. We have been fixing people's credit ratings since 26th of November 2009 officially. Prior to that, when we were testing to see if we could do it properly. We do a bloody good job. We have tens of thousands of clients around the country. We have, I think, 8,000 mortgage brokers that are on our database. We do a bloody good job. I am the past state president for the Finance Brokers Association of Australia, Finance Brokers Association of Australasia. Moved into New Zealand. Congratulations, Pete and the team. What else? Been on pretty much every major I've been featured in pretty much every major publication in Australia. I've been on most TV channels, radio stations, or major radio stations. And it's all talking about how we can help the consumer. I've been getting good people out of bad situations for over 25 years. And most people get into bad situations because they truly do not know what they don't know. There is so much fiction out there about credit ratings, how they work. And today we're going to be talking about how to legally remove a default. It's not just about removing a default. It's how it's done properly. If you're here today to learn a little bit about how to legally remove a default, then you probably know that we're not the only one in the country that do this. We're the only specialist credit repair law firm that does nothing but credit repair. And I said, been doing it for 16 years. There's a lot of people out there that have started a credit repair agency. And truth be told, when I started a credit repair agency. But I soon learned that I needed lawyers to make sure it was done properly, to up our game and make sure that we could remove defaults that were troublesome. So I employed lawyers within the firm, within MyCRA back in those days. And then I thought, well, hang on, we've got lawyers, but we're not a law firm. What's the next step? So I contacted the Queensland Law Society and found out what I, as a non-lawyer, had to do to own a law firm. I had to jump through a whole heap of hoops, and about 12 to 18 months later, I had done all the things I needed to do to qualify to be the owner of a law firm, the non-legal director of a law firm. And since then, we've been basically MyCRA lawyers. And we have outstanding success that nobody else has. Why? Because we know the law. Because everybody that's here is indoctrinated into the same way of thinking. Client first, client first. We will work our ass off to get a default removed. And sometimes it's hard. I mean, we get a lot of stuff removed very easily now because we've got the runs on the board, but sometimes it's hard. So let's look at the foundational aspects of removing a default. Credit repair is not about loopholes. It's about making sure that the creditor has complied with all of the legislation in affording the consumer all of their legal rights leading up to the listing of a default. And if they haven't, that default is deemed unlawful and needs to be removed immediately. It really is that simple. It's a simple process, or it's a simple idea, but the actioning of that idea is where the complexities come in. There's over 8,000 pages of legislation we had to get our head around to understand how to do what we do really, really well. We apply Australian credit reporting law, which includes Privacy Act, the Credit Reporting Code, case law, the National Consumer Credit Protection Act, all of the ombudsman bodies, whether they be in energy or water, telco, FOS, in the old days it was COSL, and FOS or COSL, and now it's AFCA. So all of these independent bodies have made rulings, determinations, that sort of thing, basically case law precedents, that say that the creditor can't do this in this circumstance. And whilst I'd like to think we know all of them, we probably don't. There's bound to be heaps that we haven't seen. But we know the ones that are important to getting our clients' defaults removed in the shortest possible time with the least amount of effort for the client. We like to think that we take on the client's burden, take the weight from their shoulders, and we bear that weight to give them some relief for the first time in a very long time. We take that weight and we handle it, and we get rid of the bad credit rating once and for all, for good. It's completely gone, never to be seen again. And the client can move on with their lives. Now, sometimes clients didn't know they had a bad credit rating of any kind until they went for a mortgage. And they find out that they are declined for their mortgage because they just didn't know. Other times, clients come to us when they know they've had issues in the past and they need to clean up before they go and apply for their mortgage. It doesn't matter to us when they find out about the bad credit. It just matters to us that we can get it removed sooner so that they can move on and buy their home sooner. So all of the legislation, the determinations, the rulings, all make up the foundational basis of everything we do. And our process is to have a look at what the client's circumstances are in reality, have a good conversation with them, not just a bloody fleeting over the top general chat. We need to know what led up to their bad credit rating, why it is they have a default on the credit file. Were they in a relationship breakup? Were they in a domestic violence situation? Were they overseas for too long and didn't know about paying the debt? New Australians come to Australia, organise a credit facility, go home when mum and dad get sick. They're away for 3 or 6 months. They don't realise the way the Australian credit reporting system works. We don't judge. We just need to know. Were they in jail? That's actually more common than you realise. Somebody who gets picked up for something, they go to clink. They really can't manage their finances very well while they're in clink. Do they have a substance abuse problem? Do they have a gambling problem? All of these things are base reasons to have a bad credit rating. Death in the family. Once we know what the lead up to the bad credit was, we then go into detail and ask questions about, well, what sort of finance do you want? When do you want it? And why do you want it? Because then we start to build a plan right there on the Zoom call. We start to build a plan about, well, actually, because you want this kind of finance here, we don't need to remove this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one, because they're not going to affect what you're trying to do. And the number of times I've actually had meetings with clients and they've explained the situation, we've asked the questions, and said, well, you don't need to do anything. They've been told by credit repair agencies, oh, I've got to spend all this money and do all this. No, you don't, because by the time you get to here where you want to apply for your finance, bad credit's going to be gone automatically, free. Don't have to do a bloody thing. Or just go and do this and that'll fix that. So it makes me feel good that we know our subjects so extraordinarily well that we don't need to drag every single client to us kicking and screaming. We probably push more away than we actually bring on board. We do that through a number of methods, actually. We charge an appointment fee up front. You don't pay the appointment fee, you don't get an appointment. It's $99 if you qualify, and it's $139 if you don't qualify. The appointment fee was put there specifically to stop people booking, because I've got a live on TikTok, and we've got 25,000, 26,000 followers there or something. And 3 days a week, I answer questions about credit repair. And people seem to be drawn to the fact that they get all this free information from the CEO of a law firm. And so they want to book an appointment to see what we do and how we can help and everything else. So we actually thought about doing educational appointments for a while, because the number of people that want to book in just to get clarity meant that we have only got so much time in each day. And at the end of the day, we're a business. We have to still get business coming in. So we had to try and stop people that were never going to be benefited by fixing their credit rating, because they won't get approved for finance. The lower end people with financial issues still. They're still in hardship today. They won't get finance. So fixing your credit now is not your highest priority. Getting yourself out of hardship is the highest priority. So we put these barriers to entry in place. All the marketing says, no, remove all the barriers, make it really easy for people to do business with you. Actually, we've got to do the opposite. Otherwise, we just wouldn't be able to do business. So we've got these barriers to entry, the $99 and the $139 appointment fee. And we are still flat out, even with those barriers in place, because, shit, you think about it, I suppose, $139 to speak to an expert in this area and actually get clarity that's unbiased, it's a bit rare. So it does feel good. It does. So what is it? What a default actually is? Peter Herman. Hello, Peter. How are you, sir? Welcome. 575. Oh, very good, mate. Very good. What a default actually is. A default is a payment that is in default. A default listing in your credit file means that you have defaulted in making your payment to a creditor, and they have the right to list that as a payment default on your credit file. Now, you've got to be at least 60 days in arrears. You have to have been given a number of notices prior to that default listing being listed that give you the opportunity to rectify the problem before it goes to default. Now, those of us who have been around a little while remember how things were before credit scores. And pretty much you'd get a copy of your credit file, and if there's a default on there, you're buggered. Everything else really didn't matter that much. Judgments, of course, were a bad thing. And the brilliance was you had 2 months to fix your shit up before you'd get in trouble. The legislation started to change with comprehensive credit reporting coming in 2014. And I raised the warning bells, or rang the warning bells back then, that it was going to be comprehensively more bad. There's no good coming out of this comprehensive credit reporting. And that has unfortunately turned out to be true. Comprehensive credit reporting is just comprehensively more bad information added to your credit file. The default, at least, I actually can't remember when it came in, but these 6Qs, 21Ds, they all came in around the same time from memory. We had something different before then. And what that now means, though, is you've actually got to be, I think, 74 days in arrears before a default can actually be listed. You get an extra 14-day grace period. And that sounds all really, really good. Except these days you can be buggered up in 1 day by inquiring with the wrong sort of finance. That can completely destroy your credit rating. Or if you're just 15 days late making your credit card payment, completely destroy your credit rating to a greater extent and reducing your score more than having a default. It's wrong. The system's wrong. But that's why we do what we do. We fix this stuff up. So a default under the Privacy Act and the Credit Reporting Code is a listing on your credit file that says you're in default of making your payment when you're supposed to, and that negatively affects your ability to borrow money. The notice requirements are Section 21D, 6Q. You've got elements of the Credit Reporting Code that have to come into place. You've got elements of the National Consumer Credit Protection Act. When notices have to be sent, what notices are, and right down to the formulation and structure of the letter of the notice. It has to be structured in a very particular way, and that's in the regulations. And we find over the years we've seen some really bad examples of what creditors do to avoid having to send the notices. Or, sorry, what they do to try and say they sent the notices when they haven't done them in the first place. In the bad old days, there's an energy company in WA, won't mention its name since it's the only one there, that used to be called something different. It had a name change. And in the bad old days, the client had a default on the credit file dated prior to the name change, like 12 months prior to the name change. We were negotiating with the creditor, and we said we need a copy of the default notice. We need a copy of all the warning letters. And they were humming and hawing about doing it. And we pressed them on the point. Eventually got the letter, but the letter was in the name of the new company. And we went back and said, are you sure this is the letter? Have you got evidence this is the one you actually sent? Oh, yeah, this is the one we sent. And it was dated prior to the formation of the company, before the company was even incorporated. Now, it's a government body, but it's still a company. So they lied. So we took them to task, and they removed the default because they didn't have a default notice. The default notices have to be sent to the last known address. There's an argument about, these days, especially with apps and with email notices, can the creditor rely on the fact that they send all of the statements, all of the bills by email, but then send the default notice by mail, by physical snail mail? Because today, clients may never need to update their address. They might move 15 times. And if they don't physically update their address with the creditor, the default notice will go to the last known address. They never hear about it. They get a default, and the creditor has an argument that, well, they didn't update their address, so that's the last known address. So there's always the argument as well about if you're going to send it by mail, you also need to send it by email. And then we've got the issue where clients get locked out of their app. They don't make a payment on time, and the app locks them out, which means they can't rectify the situation. So there's a lot of problems we're getting into at the moment with the modern era. Hopefully AI will fix some of that. The myth, just pay it and it's gone. We had an entire session last week about credit reporting myths, and one of those was just pay it and it'll go away. And it doesn't. Just paying your default is not legal grounds, or just paying the debt that's associated with the default, is not legal grounds by any stretch of the imagination to have the default removed. We know there are creditors that will do it. If you negotiate with them well, you can go to the creditor, explain your circumstances. There are a lot of creditors out there that some people think are assholes, but they are really decent human beings. And if you treat them nice, they'll treat you nice. So if you go to them and explain your circumstances and you pay the debt, they will actually break the law in a lot of cases to help you, because it is breaking the law to remove the default just because it's paid. They'll tell fibs. They'll say that we found this and this and this and this, and we removed the default. So you should probably ask. Again, I'm not going to get rich if I get your business. I'm not going to go broke if you don't. You should probably bloody ask the creditor if they'll remove the default for you. At law, the only way a default can be removed is if it's been placed incorrectly, if it's unjust, unlawful, unfair. Because to be unjust, unlawful, unfair would traditionally mean that you haven't been notified. You might think it's unfair just because you don't like it, but to be unfair, you have to have missed out on being notified. And if it is not listed correctly, it just simply cannot be there. They haven't met the basic foundational requirements to list the default. The default has to come off. The default notices are way down the track. There are so many steps that have to be taken way before. Oh, hang on. Just got to. Dave has just sent me a text to say that we've got elevator music playing in the background. Is it bad? Is it too loud? Tell me in the comments now if the music's pain in the ass, because I've got my headphones on and I didn't think it was loud. It's supposed to give a little bit of ambience. Is it shithouse? I don't have many choices because I haven't uploaded any music yet. Peter Herman, can you hear the music? Is it a pain in the ass? David, is it a pain in the ass? Please tell me. I can turn it off. Anyway, where were we? Foundational steps. We know as an absolute certainty that we have not been able to find a single creditor that has met all of the foundational steps to list a default, an inquiry, or a late repayment history. What does that mean? That means that on the face of it, every single default, every single inquiry, and every single late repayment history should be able to be removed just like that. And this is the black and white letter of the law. So why doesn't every single default get removed just like that? Why doesn't every single inquiry get removed just like that? And why doesn't every single late repayment history get removed just like that? Because the creditors believe they're right. The creditors have a legal team that, LinkedIn News, you can hear it, but is it a pain in the ass? The creditors have a legal team that say, this is how you interpret the legislation, this is what it means, and this is what you have to do. I like to think, in fact, I know that we are a lot better than that. We've been focusing on this legislation for 16 years solid. We know that we know it better. We test our theories. Whoever said that, thank you very much. So again, do you want me to turn the fucking music off? I really don't care. It's supposed to be there just to add a little bit of ambience. I don't do it on TikTok. I don't care. You guys do what you want. It's all about you. So we know this legislation backwards. We test our theories. We know that no creditor meets the requirements. But it's a case of interpretation. They will argue their point. We will argue our point on behalf of our clients. The issue is, though, that they want to argue a lot harder, because if they were to actually follow the legislation to a T, they probably lose millions and millions of dollars in business every year, because the legislation is so prescriptive as to what they have to do. They would probably lose business. It would scare the crap out of clients or prospective customers signing up for their financial products, signing up for their products, if they knew exactly what it was that they were going to get themselves into. Now that I say I can turn this music off, there we are. Couldn't find it. It's called Lo-Fi. It's pretty pathetic, but hey, it was an option. So music's off. So we know that we can get these things removed. Sometimes it comes down to the argument. Does the client want to have the argument? Does the client want to spend the time? We do. We like to win. No competition here, but we like to win. And we win. So how do we actually investigate the listings? Step one is to get the initial explanation from the client and understand what their scenario was. Then from that, we start to formulate a case, to formulate a strategy. We write to the creditor. We ask them for a series of documents they're legally required to hold. They will then, at that stage, either say, it's MyCRA lawyers, let's remove the default, just move on, it's just not worth the argument. Because they know that we know where they have systemic issues. They know that we know where to look every single time when we're dealing with that creditor or that creditor or that creditor. So a lot of them make the commercial decision, say, it's MyCRA lawyers, we'll just remove the default. Others will then, others that don't know us as well, they might send us some documentation, or they might just want to play the game. I think they don't realize we're on a fixed fee retainer. So whether it takes us 1 day to remove the default or 1 month to remove the default, doesn't matter. We get paid the same. So we don't run out of resources and stop chasing just because they're delaying. So some creditors will send us some information. So we write back to them saying, well, you haven't provided evidence of this, and this. Therefore, the default's deemed unlawfully. I've got to remove it. They often argue and say get nicked. And we have to go through the motions then of convincing them that they are in breach. I would love to have a few multi-millionaire clients that said, you know what, I want to win this on principle. I don't give a shit what it costs, because then we can take further action against the creditors and actually put them in their place. Because the, what's the starting fine? 2,000 penalty points at $330 per penalty point last time I checked. that's $600,000 per breach. And it's not unusual for us to find up to 14 individual legislative or compliance breaches in any one default listing. So someone with maths, 14 times 660,000. And the legislation was changed late last year. And now the court can rule up to $50 million, up to a $50 million court-appointed fine. Again, I've never seen any really big fines. They theoretically can happen. The trouble is if the Privacy Commission never actually uses the big stick, it's just a stick and no one gives a shit. So we go through the process of requesting all of this documentation from the creditor. Let's say we've got a creditor that is very new to us and they give us every single thing they got. We then go through that list of documentation with a fine-tooth comb looking for legislative and compliance breaches in the way the default listing was added. As I said, it's not unusual for us to find up to 14 individual breaches. Once we find those breaches, we write back to the creditor and say, dear Mr. Creditor, you have you have erred here, 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 and here, and list them all out. List to the creditor the potential, list to the creditor that these are all breaches of a client's privacy, and then let them know what the potential damage is if they get fined for that, and or the potential common law damages, claims, demonstrable damages the client could demonstrate if the client wanted to take it to a civil case. And most of the times they'll simply remove it. Sometimes they decide to dig their heels and say, no, our lawyer said this. Okay, good. Yeah, it's fine. So we have to go and take further action. Some of that action sometimes is just as simple as taking it to AFCA and taking the entire case file to AFCA, say, dear Mr. AFCA, have a look at all of this. Here's all the evidence that we have put together to show that this particular creditor has breached this client's privacy and the creditor is refusing to remove the default. Therefore, we need you to step in and force them to do so. Now, theoretically, AFCA could rule against us, and it has happened. And then what we can do is take that to the Privacy Commissioner and file a complaint with the Privacy Commissioner. These things are all a serious pain in the ass because it takes a long time. AFCA can delay. OAC can delay even further. And at the end of the day, our clients want to get a resolution. They want to have their default removed as quickly as possible so they can move on and buy their house. Though these are the options open to us. Even if the Privacy Commissioner said no, we could take it one step further. We never have, never needed to. Where we find a creditor is consistently making the same difficulties over and over again, we have in the past complained to the Privacy Commissioner on every single instance. And what that does is it starts to, and we CC the creditor in, so the creditor can see that we are complaining to the Privacy Commissioner and creating evidence of a systemic breach pattern. And then they pull their head in pretty bloody quick. Because if we have a commissioner-initiated investigation, they could go through every single file and find this creditor is breaching so badly that, heaven forbid, they even be closed down. Okay, thank you, David. Appreciate that. Okay. Now, where are we? Finding non-compliance. And we don't go to the creditor and just put up a bullshit complaint. There's unfortunately a lot of credit repair agencies out there that they'll take the money from the client and then they'll file a complaint with AFCA and or with the credit reporting bodies. They don't do the job themselves. They just expect that AFCA will do the investigation. They expect that Equifax will do the investigation, but they're getting paid. In our case, we actually do the investigation. We go through, we know the law, we find out what the requirements are. The difference is we get stuff removed. We've had AFCA say no and we've still got it removed. We've had Equifax say no and still got it removed. We've had Ilion say no and still got it removed. So the process we use ensures the client's highest possible chance of success in getting a default removed. The only time we really don't get something removed these days is if the client gives up, they go AWOL. They've got the shits with the entire thing and they stop talking to us. And that's really frustrating because they've paid us to do a job. We're doing the job and we're asking them for more information or we're giving them the next steps and they disappear. That's really frustrating for me because we want to get the result for them. And that's really about the only time these days I think that we don't get something removed. So it's interesting. It really is interesting. Human nature is very interesting. Breaches we commonly find: incomplete or missing default notices. That's very common, that the creditors don't provide them, or they have never sent them. Another one that's interesting, it's not as big today as it used to be, and though I think it's coming back. Assignment notices. The creditor must provide an assignment notice to the consumer when it goes from ANZ to Credit Corp. It's law. It doesn't happen. Wrong default amount or duplicate listings. The duplicate listings doesn't happen very much anymore either, but the wrong default amount. We got a commercial default removed just yesterday. Haven't even told the client yet because we're just waiting for something else, but confirmation removal yesterday, and partly because the amount listed was wrong. And the creditor has been telling us no for a year. We don't give up. We just kept going. Default placed on the wrong entity, business versus individual. So it is not uncommon for a commercial style inquiry or default to be on the consumer side of an individual's credit file, and a consumer style inquiry or default to be on the commercial side of an individual's credit file. Or we have a director's guarantee listed on an individual's credit file that shouldn't be there. These are things that can stop you getting your home loan, and these are things that we can remove for you. Default listed during an active dispute or hardship arrangement. That is so common. The creditor, as long as you're in an active dispute situation, the creditor can't put a default on. But you can't keep that active dispute situation going indefinitely just to try and skirt the legislation. There are rules how that works. Be careful, there's a scam going around. I just got it. CoinSpot AU as the SMS number. Just sent me a message saying, log into your account now. Unusual activity from Beijing. Not you, log in. Fuck off, idiots. Okay, not valid consent under 21B of the Privacy Act. There are so many individual legislative breaches that cause defaults to be removed. As I said, foundationally, the creditor must do all the things they must do. They must provide you with all of the statements and notices at or before the time your initial information is taken. And if they don't have grounds. So why brokers choose MyCRA lawyers? Well, 16 years. We've been doing this for 16 years. We are very, very good at what we do. As I said, we don't go broke if we don't get your business. We won't get rich if we do. For us, it's about getting the right result for the right person at the right time. Not everybody is a good client fit for MyCRA lawyers. The perfect client for MyCRA lawyers is A and B. A is a small business person that had issues in their business a couple of years ago. They had cash flow problems. They chose to pay their staff instead of paying their own credit card or their own personal bill. They got behind in their own payments. Their business survived. They got through the cash flow crisis. But today, the fact that they have got that one default listing on their credit file is stopping them moving their business forward. Why is that client better? Number one, they have a different relationship to money. They are the client that will say, Graham, here's some money. Throw some money at us. Tell me when it's bloody fixed. Really, I've got to get on with the business. I haven't got time for this crap. Tell me when it's fixed. And we just get in and do it. That's the commercial law side of the business. It's bloody fantastic. The second style of client is exactly the same, except they're not a business person. They're a wage earner, but they are mum and dad, been saving for the house. Everything's going sweet. They had issues a couple of years ago. They're back in a good financial position today. They either didn't know they had a default or they didn't know the implication of the default from when they had, and they can't buy their home. The difference is, and why there's a difference between these two, is it's the relationship to money. Mum and dad have had to save their ass off to get a deposit. Now, if they don't have any spare cash, they're going to have to take money out of their deposit to fix their credit rating. And they're emotionally attached to that number that the broker said, you've got to have this much deposit to be able to get this house. So there's an emotional attachment to the money that's different to a business person. And from a success point of view, they're both exactly the same. We can help them equally and we get them the result equally. From a ease of doing business with, the business person is easier because they're not attached to the money, the few $1,000s it might cost to fix their credit rating. It's just a business expense, fully tax deductible, everything else, just a business expense. Just fix it and tell me when it's done. 91.6% success rate. That's our audited, independently audited, externally audited, our externally independently audited success rate. It's old now. It's probably 10 years old. It costs money to get that done. I haven't done another one because our success rate's actually higher than that. If it had gone down, I would have had to do it, but our success rate's a lot higher. And if I say to you 91.6%, it sounds good. If I say to you 97%, like there's a couple of credit repair agencies out there saying 97% success rate, and yet we get so many people coming to us that they haven't been able to fix. So it's just bullshit. Everyone knows it's bullshit. So I'd rather keep it at a figure that sounds reasonable, and I can't be stuffed spending the money. Australia's only full-service credit repair law firm working strictly within the law. That's us. We don't do anything else. MyCRA Lawyers is exclusively credit reporting. That's it, nothing else. And that's what makes us bloody good at it. I should probably talk about some case studies, but we've got so many. Let me have a quick look. One of the easiest ones actually would be on the MyCRA Lawyers website. Have a quick look here. Get rid of all this crap off my screen. I think this one came from Tammy Grant, one of her clients. And it's actually the ones that ASIC challenged us on when we first got our credit license all those years ago. We don't technically need a credit license because we're a law firm, but it's such a grey area, we thought stuff that we'd do it anyway. So if we go to the About section and then we go to, not the case studies, it's on the, where are we? It's on the calendar. Sorry, the calculators, testimonials, calculators, calculators. It's on the calculators page. And bad credit versus clean credit calculator. And right at the bottom, here we go, client 1. Loan purpose was mortgage refinance. This is going back a few years, so the rates are a little bit different, right? But we had, the loan amount was $416,000. Can you imagine such a low loan amount these days? $416,000. The previous rate was 6.18%. And that was with Better Choice Mortgages, 6.18%. The new lender was going to be NAB and 2.98%. The amount saved was $13,312 per year for that alone. And that when we put that one up there, so credit licensing came in 2021, I think, from memory. So this was a 2019 case study. Client 2, the loan purpose was construction, building a house. $524,185. The existing lender was Pepper Home Loans at the time, 5.34%. We went with a new, they'll refinance the loan once the construction is finished within 6 months. The new loan rate ended up being 1.99%, $17,560,000 interest saved every single year. They're moving forward. And the last one, it was purchase a home, $668,944.82. Again, Pepper Home Loans, 4.89%. The risk fee was 1.25%, or $8,361.81. The new lender, again, was NAB, coincidentally, and they came in at 2.08%. The amount saved by choosing option 2 after MyCRA Lawyers fixed their credit rating was $18,797.35 in interest. So per year in interest, $8,362.81 in a risk fee. That's a total of $27,229.16 in the first year alone, saved just by fixing their credit rating and getting their home refinanced. So the cost-benefit analysis on doing this is outstanding. And you've just got to make the decision whether or not you want it done properly, or cross your fingers and hope like hell, save a few $100s and hope like hell that the other guys are going to fix it and not make it even worse. The legal process versus credit fixes. So if you've ever received a you haven't paid your bill letter from a creditor, they're strong. But if you've ever received a letter from a law firm saying you haven't paid, and if you don't pay this amount by this amount of time, this is what's going to happen, this is how it's going to happen, this is when I'm going to see you in court, and this is blah, 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 it's a much stronger letter. And it's signed by a solicitor. It's not signed by Ginny Smith admin. It has a lot more credibility, has a lot more weight. And that's part of the reason a law firm can remove defaults better than credit repair agencies who are just trying to do their best. We as a law firm, MyCRA Lawyers is part of the Legal Practice Holdings Group. We are compelled to act in a particular way. The requirements of the Australian credit license to people who've never had that sort of requirement, they're onerous. But to us, it's like a drop in the bottom of the bucket, because the requirements for a law firm from a compliance point of view are so much higher. Under the Legal Profession Act, the lawyers must act in a particular way at all times. The structure of responsibility is to court, which is law, then to the client, and then to the firm, and then to the individual. So we must put the court and the law at the top of the tree. Everything we do must be done the way the law says it has to be done. And then it's the client. The client has higher importance over our law firm. So we do more for the client than we do for our law firm. And then the law firm has a higher preferential treatment than me as an individual. So it's an interesting structure. And until you actually have dealt inside, until you've dug inside law firms, none of this would ever be apparent. It's an interesting structure. But what that does, like on my website, it says, what's right down the bottom? It says, here we are, Legal Practice Holdings Group, Traders, MyCRA Lawyers. It's website, where are we? Past results, no indication of future success. No, I'm looking for a disclaimer. Liability limited by a scheme approved under the professional standards legislation. So that's on every law firm's letterhead, website, everything else. And it's probably relevant to this conversation, except that we've got to have it there. The I's that have to be dotted, the T's that have to be crossed in a law firm are onerous, to say the least. But we know what we're doing. We're really, really good at this. We run a trust account. Okay. When you, as a broker, pay money to a credit repair agency, it goes into the general bank account, they spend it, no obligation. When money comes to us, it goes into our trust account. It's held on trust until the work is done that we're charging for, whatever it is. Doesn't matter which one of my law firms it is, that's the structure. So that is that extra level of protection that clients have dealing with a law firm. What happens after removal? How clients can get finance again. So as soon as this is one of these interesting things. People say, once my default's removed, how long until my credit score goes up? Well, that millisecond. Once the default's gone, your credit file has no history of that default being there. So your score, unless I've changed it recently, your score is calculated in real time. The algorithm runs when you request a copy of your credit file. That's different to if you're paying for a subscription, you get a new credit file every month. If you get a new credit file every month on your subscription, and we remove a default on day 14, your credit file isn't going to reflect the change until the new credit file comes out another 15 or 16 days later. If, however, you're on that subscription, it hasn't changed, you want to come back to us, pay us $50, we'll pull a fresh copy for you. You're just paying for our time to pull a fresh copy. It'll show your score, and it'll show the default's gone, and your score is higher because the default's gone. Some people don't get credit files very often. We always include the requirement that before you go and get more finance, for Christ's sake, check your credit rating to make sure it's gone, because some creditors make a mistake. They think they send the notice to the credit reporting body. They don't. We can often get a default removed the same day the creditor says we're going to remove it. It actually comes off the credit file. If the creditor's feeling a bit lazy, they'll just put it into the queue, and it can take up to 30 business days, apparently, which hasn't been the case since COVID. I think the legislation says 10 days to get it removed for a correction. We guaranteed approval. So there's a number of creditors we've dealt with for so long, and we get such high success that we have 100% money back guarantee on them. There's emails coming out all the time about that. And they are likes of Credit Corp, Panthera, Pioneer, Transaction Capital, Toyota Finance, and a couple of others. We just know in our heart of hearts that is going to be removed. And if you're concerned about it, we give 100% money back guarantee. Don't care. You got to tell us the truth. Again, if you tell us lies and you've been to another credit repair agency and they've fucked it up and stuff like that, that doesn't come into the guarantee. We've got to get a fresh crack at it. But I don't think we've ever had to pay the guarantee back, because we just simply get them removed. but typical of me, I'm covering my ass. Common misconceptions. Defaults expire in less than 5 years. They don't. A default stays in credit file for a full 5 years from the date it was listed unless you get us to remove it sooner. Credit repair is illegal. It's not. When it's done right, it's actually illegal to have the default on there rather than illegal to take it off. I've spoken to a lot of credit managers over the years that say that we're scum of the earth. We are the doing the wrong thing. We're breaking the credit reporting system, the integrity of the credit reporting system. No, mate, we're actually making it right, making you bastards, keeping the bastards honest. And that's an old phrase that hasn't really worked for a long time, but keeping the bastards honest, because a creditor has a legal obligation to do all of these things before they're allowed to list a default in your credit file, even all these things before they're allowed to list an inquiry in your credit file. If they don't do it, then you shouldn't be disadvantaged by having a default on your credit file that wasn't put there properly in the first place. So I think we're actually doing a public service almost, which is probably why I get spent so much time teaching people how to do this for free, because not everybody can afford us. We're a law firm, and they still need to know how this stuff works. Only the lender can remove a default. Well, it's either the creditor that removes the default, or it's the credit reporting body that removes the default when the creditor won't remove it, even though they're legally compelled to. When a default can't be removed, theoretically, a default cannot be removed if it's been placed correctly. We just have never seen one that's been placed correctly. We give clients honest assessment right up front. We'll tell you how long it's going to take based on our experience. We will err on the side of caution. The other day, we actually missed out on a client because we said it's going to take 3 to 6 months to remove an RHI for this particular creditor, repayment history information, comprehensive credit reporting, repayment history information. And the client didn't want to wait that long. So they probably went to somebody dodgy who said, oh, yeah, we'll do that in 3 weeks. And they're going to be waiting 3 to 6 months anyway, because it's not us. It's not us that drag the chain. It's the creditor. The creditor takes too long because they fuck around with it. That's the only reason things take a long time. It's the creditor. And so the last part in closing, I'm going to keep to I'm almost over time. The journey. Clients make contact with us. They contact us on 1300 667 218, 0483 9678 or docs@mycralawyers.com.au. They reach out, we speak to them. Dave will book you in for an appointment. It'll cost you $99 if you qualify. Qualification is really simple. There's a heap of steps to do it properly, but in basics, it's you're buying a house or refinancing a house within the next 6 months. You're ready to go apart from the default. You're financially stable again now, but you've got these issues that are defaults, inquiries, that sort of stuff from a few years ago that are stopping you getting it. That's it. If you meet that criteria, basically you qualify. If you've got a partner, your partner must be at our Zoom appointment. If you would buy a house without your partner being there, without asking your partner permission, they don't have to be there. But if your partner's involved in any sort of transaction like that, then they have to be there, because this is a life-changing appointment. And if you don't want to do that, just don't have an appointment. Don't book it. Don't have an appointment. Because if they're not there, we won't do the appointment and you won't get your money back. You wasted our time. So we do set the appointment, do the file assessment. Rod will go through and ask all those questions. If we elect to take you on, he'll give you a full written quote while you're on the Zoom. You transfer money to our trust account. We will do the investigation, dispute any unlawful defaults, and we will then let you know that it's time to do a happy dance. The default's removed, it's time to do a happy dance. And that's pretty much it. So I hope that's something that clarifies how defaults are actually removed properly. I could go into hours of more explanation, going right into the individual legislation, but this has taken 45 minutes, and it's only an overview. I think our checklist has like 150 odd points in it of things we check to make sure the creditor has done the right thing on any one default listing. So 16 years of experience, guys. That's what makes the difference. If you've got any questions, ask now. Otherwise, we haven't got any questions yet, but otherwise I will end it now and keep on to time. And I'll have a sip of my coffee while I'm waiting. Okay, so on that note, let's keep it sharp and short. I'll see you next Tuesday when we are talking about another subject altogether. Feel free to reach out at any stage, ask questions. We're here to answer your questions, and we will see you next week.